I'd like to ask everybody that is here, what are the 5 things? Now, there could be more, but I'm going to focus on the 5 main things. What are the 5 main things that you can control each and every day? Anybody like to put in the chat box? Let's see if anybody can get those, one of those 5 or a few of those 5. Somebody says anger. You can control your anger. Yep, that's an emotion. You can control that. Sure. Could be any emotion, right? How about somebody else? Thank you for sharing. Somebody says my attitude, my routine, my usage of time. Wonderful. Thank you. So we got 2 out of the 3 here. So here are the 5 things that we can control each and every day as human beings. So write this down. Number 1 is communication to yourself and other people. You can control what you say to other people, but ask yourself, would it be important that if I'm communicating effectively to myself first, do you think that would mean that you would be able to effectively communicate to other people in a better way? That's either a yes or a no. Let's see if we get a few responses in the chat box. Either you agree or do not agree. Either way is fine. There's no right or wrong answer. It's all based on your perception. Somebody says emotions, response. Yep. So let me know, like, if you could communicate to yourself in a healthy, productive way, do you feel that you'll be able to communicate to other people much better? Either yes or no. Let's see if we got a lot of yeses coming in. Okay, great. Yeah. So think about it. Every day when you wake up, what is that inner voice telling you? See, there's 2 voices that you could be listening to. It's the inner critic, which operates from limiting beliefs and a fixed mindset, or your inner champion, which operates from a growth mindset, from mental toughness. It's always a choice. Anything in life is a choice, regardless. What are you choosing to listen to? And what are you choosing to listen to on a consistent basis? So when we can operate from the inner champion to communicate in an effective way to ourselves, we can effectively communicate to other people. We can do it in a way that is very specific, clear, and concise. Would it be safe to say that most communication between human beings is based on assumption and speculation? Again, a yes or a no question. We just assume that somebody knew what we were saying. We speculate without even asking somebody that it is what it is, without even asking them. Somebody says yes. And we got, let's see, yep, we got a few more yeses. Somebody says no. Okay, good. We got somebody that doesn't see it that way. Good. That's okay. I like that. So when you think about it, when we just assume and speculate, like for instance, if I said, hey, I need this right away, what does that mean? Right away. Does that mean like in 5 minutes? Does that mean at the top of the hour? Does that mean at the end of the day? But most people would say, if they were specific, clear, and concise, would say, I require this in 5 minutes. I will require this at the top of the hour at 10 o'clock. So you can see that when we're specific, clear, and concise in communication, it's going to be a lot better to the receiver. Now, it's also the receiver's responsibility, if they're not sure what was meant by that they can clarify. What do you mean by you need this right away? Do you need this, what time do you need this by exactly? See, that extra 10 seconds of words or communication can be the difference that could save a problem from happening, conflict. It could save a marriage. It could save a partnership in a business. Now, I'm not saying one time that happens is going to cause that, but over time. So we often take for granted that our communication to other people is based on assumption and speculation, could lead to problems. So we can control that, whether if we are the sender or receiver of that communication. So we can control that. Now, keep in mind, communication can be in the form of being passive, aggressive, or assertive. Passive means that often people communicate in a way to please and enable other people. It's because, again, they're operating from a limiting belief. And pleasing and enabling is exhausting. So I don't know about you, but I lived for several years up until 23 years ago as a pleaser, because I looked for that validation, but it was exhausting. and it didn't help the person I was pleasing. Now, aggressive is the opposite of that, that we place high expectations onto people. We have a hard time delegating, and when we do, we can be very aggressive in our demands on people. That can cause friction. Assertive is different. It's not a codependent trait like passive and aggressive. It's assertive means that we are being specific, clear, and concise. We're owning our role and duties in any situation and being accountable for it. And we communicate in a very specific, clear, and concise way. That is assertive. So that's communication. The next one, number 2, is behavior. And behavior is the same way as communication. It can be independent or codependent. It can be from being a passive or aggressive in your behavior. I was both, and now I operate from an assertive behavior in a communication in an interdependent way. So it's the same thing. Our behavior can be very passive, where people take advantage of our good nature. We often make ourselves available. Usually people that are yes everybody are pleaser, are passive. When people are aggressive, they're very demanding. It can come across as narcissistic in many ways. And assertive, again, is just, you're being responsible for your role and duties at all times, being accountable and communicating in a way how it'll impact others and what they do in their roles and duties. So there's a big difference in we can control that. We can control our communication and behavior. Number 3, we can control our attitude. Somebody said that earlier. We can control that. No matter what is happening around us, we have the choice to choose how we're going to respond to that situation, either in a good way or a negative way. In this case, a positive or a negative way. Number 4 is our emotions. Somebody said anger before, and anger is an emotion. And that's how I responded to everything in my life 23 years ago, was from anger. That didn't serve me. That didn't serve anyone that I would communicate or behave, or my attitude when I was interacting in different situations from anger. But see, we have to look at emotions as happening for us, not to us. See, there's a big difference. For us looks at the challenge or the situation as a learning experience, how we're going to change to become, to do, and have different and better results. It's also going to, understand that we're going to grow and learn more as part of this process. See, when it's happening to us, we are now the victim. We are now, we use excuses. We justify why certain things didn't work because it was somebody else's fault. It was COVID's fault. It was inflation's fault. It was the economy's fault. We keep looking for things outside of ourselves to claim that responsibility. So when it's happening for us, we shift our way of thinking in a positive way to see what can become as part of that obstacle that we're going through. So that's 4. And number 5 is our course of action. See, we can control all 5 of those things each and every day. What are the 5 things that we cannot control? Now, keep in mind, there could be a lot of other things, but again, these are the main things within you. What are the 5 things that we cannot control? Anybody like to share? Somebody says weather. Okay, yes, that's something outside of it. We can't control the weather. We can't, uncertainties in life. Yeah, we can't control uncertainty. So those are things that are happening outside of our control. They are outside of us. Uncertainties can be COVID, it can be inflation, it can be the war in Russia and Ukraine right now. It could be a lot of different things. But here are the 5 things that we cannot control as people. They're the same 5 things we just discussed, but in other people. We can't control somebody else's communication. We can't control what they're going to perceive, what we said, what we wrote. We can clarify and be specific, clear, and concise, but still their perception is their perception. We can't control that. We cannot control their behavior. We cannot control their attitude. We cannot control people's emotions. We cannot control their course of action. We can only control those 5 things within ourselves. As an extraordinary leader, that's what we can control. We can't control the 5 things outside. But think about some point in your life, do you feel that as human beings that because we've experienced stress, anxiety, frustration, feeling overwhelmed, it's because we are constantly in the past and the future in a fixed mindset, caught up in the control we cannot control? That's the 5 things outside of our control. We're so caught up in it and we don't realize it. But if we were to shift that way of thinking through mental toughness to fully focus on what we can control in ourselves and fully letting go of everything else, including the weather, COVID, the economy, inflation, everything, letting it go beyond our control, this is where we can make that shift into mental toughness becoming part of our foundation each and every day, that is going to allow us to move into the 8 pillars of wellness that we'll be discussing shortly to find that alignment. So I wanted to kind of point that finger. And another thing about mental toughness is the ability to trust the process. The process is what you do each and every day, what you can control. Each day, each week, each month, each quarter, each year. And letting go of what we cannot control and letting the results be a byproduct of that. See, as human beings, we tend to get caught up in what we call expectations. What usually happens with expectations? Anybody like to share? When we have expectations, what happens? Disappointment, not fulfilled. Because what's happening is we're getting caught up in the control we cannot control. That's what expectations often, you start to give up the power of what you can control. And now you are projecting that loss of control into something you have no control over whatsoever. So instead of operating from expectations to the outcome, mental toughness says, what can I control right now in the moment? Then tomorrow will come and I'll do that. Then the next day will come, next week will come, next month, next quarter, and you do the same thing each and every day. The results will just be a byproduct of what you do in the moment. It's controlling what you can, letting go of what you can't. So think of it like a puzzle. You have a few puzzle pieces here right now. Does that mean that things always work out exactly how you envisioned it? Not exactly, but you're more likely to reach those goals when you can shift your way of thinking from, instead of being attached to the outcome, to being focused on the process in the moment. It's a big difference. And then we can celebrate those victories each and every day or whenever those things happen, even the littlest things. So these are the 4 cornerstones of mental toughness. We talked about control, the ability to control what we can, letting go of what we can't. Now, another important factor of mental toughness is commitment. So when we commit to something, what would that look like to you when you make a commitment? Would a commitment mean that you do certain things to that commitment once in a while, or you do certain things, just whatever you're striving to do every day? Would it be safe to say that consistent discipline and consistency to something that will serve you to be an example for someone else or people would be an indication of commitment? And that could be yes or no. So that would be, again, you're using discipline and consistency to do something that will serve you to be a better example for others. Would it be safe to say that would be what commitment is? Yes. Yes. We got a bunch of yeses coming in. Great. Absolutely. So again, discipline and consistency are the things that you do every day.